Alright, hello, and welcome back to Bookcasting. Today we're going to be talking about, of course, AI art. Now, I'll be upfront and frank with you. I'm neither going to be talking about how AI art is the bane of all existence and it's the greatest nightmare, blah blah blah, nor am I going to be praising AI art as a positive influence on society and blah blah blah. Yeah. Basically, what I want to do is talk about, is the threat of AI art taking over the artist's jobs really an issue? If so, how? And basically kind of delve into what AI art will be in the future. So let's start with the first question. Will AI art actually be as detrimental to artists as people think? For the most part, no. No. Let me explain why, okay? First and foremost, art delving into the arts is already very difficult to make a good business living off of it, first and foremost. And AI art isn't going to change much of that in the grand scheme of things. It's still going to be difficult to make any sort of legitimate business in being an artist, just as much now as it ever was. It's not really going to change as much as people think. I suppose that if there is any market that artists could be really hurt by is probably terms of sort of like design works, like maybe logos and things like that. But that's really about it. Like, it's not going to take over painting. It's not going to take over sculpture. It's really not going to do anything like that. I'm not saying AI art won't be detrimental in some ways, but to artists that can actually paint good or draw good, they're actually going to be fine if they can find a way to make a living out of it. The difficulty in making a living out of it is, of course, going to still be an issue, and maybe it'll be a little more harder in the future. I won't deny that, but I don't think it'll be that much harder than what it's already been like in the past, anyhow. So overall, you're still going to have you're still going to have like artists, painting or drawing commissions and stuff like that. You're still going to have the art prints and the artists going to those conventions and whatever, selling their art stuff and wares, yada yada. There's really not going to be much that's missed on that front. And also, I think there's one major factor that everyone on either side is ignoring in terms of AI art. It's stuck in a digital space. In other words, it has no impact in the physical world, like, at all. I mean, the only impact it's going to have is in, well, we'll get into that aspect a little later on. But again, the only chance AI art could possibly influence physical art is maybe if they manage to use the AI art programs to interconnect that with robots. But even if that happens, would it be much more than an interesting novelty that would be shown at like carnivals for a while before being kind of just faded out and forgotten? Like, really, like, can robots really make good art? I mean, even from what we've seen with AI art, there are things that AI art can do well, but even then, a lot of the time, it's like fantastical landscaping, patterns, stuff like that. It's not very good at expressing any sort of physical emotions, especially in terms of the features of the human body. It's not very good at photorealistic landscapes, and oftentimes it can easily mix those up. Its best place, ironically, is in stuff like the Uncanny Valley. So, like, it has a lot of limitations that are, not really threatening. Maybe if the technology advances, it will be a threat, but again, we'll get into that. So, although artists are freaking out about this, I hate to break this to you, but we're gonna live in a day where one of the few positions where you're gonna have a solid job is in the arts. Ironically, no, I'm serious. Most jobs are gonna be pretty much demolished by machines, by AI, and things along that nature. Like, for example, Ubers, taxi drivers, truckers, all those types of jobs are going to be replaced by self-driving vehicles. They're going to completely dominate the market in terms of driving vehicles. So you're not going to have bus drivers. You're not going to have taxi drivers. You're not going to have, that. And there's a lot of detriments of that sort going to happen. Eventually, there's going to be no cashiers. Eventually, there's no going to be there isn't even going to be many people doing the cooking in like the fast food chain restaurants. Almost all that's going to be automatically done by machines. It's just a matter of when, not if, and stuff like that. The arts is one of the few places where, ironically, you will have technically a real job. It will be difficult to get a job with the arts, I won't deny that, but you can actually make it if you are talented enough of an artist, or you know how to sell your work right and make a good business out of it, what have you. So ironically, there's going to potentially be a day where artists are one of the few real jobs, and every other type of job that was real will be dead. And this accounts from everything from like accounting, most lawyers, stuff like that. Jobs like that are going to be mostly replaced by AI, right? Artists, if they're good enough, they're actually going to be one of the few people that'll still have a job. Granted, again, it'll be difficult and limited to some extent, but if they're good enough and can still sell their products, yeah. So it's just the idea of actually the idea of like what's been considered real jobs in the past, being a driver or an accountant or a lawyer, all that being replaced by AI. So and there's no real chance ever of that ever being done with real people ever again. Why would they be? With artists, especially if they're independent artists that make independent businesses, like an independent business, and find a way to find some niche to sell their art in some way. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy to think that art's maybe one of the few real jobs left outside of government jobs and things like that. Yeah, but I will admit there is one detrimental area where artists are going to be fucked. And it's inevitable that this will happen, and I don't think there's anything that can be done with it. And that is specifically in animation. There's no denying that once this technology in AI art is advanced enough, can be detailed enough where you could take, say, a video that you shot, upload it to an AI program, and have that program completely convert the video into an animation style of your choosing just by a simple prompt. When that technology becomes that advanced, almost all animation will be dominated by AI. And this is really the area that's going to really fuck artists more than anything else. Like, ironically, people that are just like manga artists or independent comic book artists or painters or stuff like that, they're the ones that are going to be mostly okay. Mostly. But like animators, they're fucked. Animators are good and they're going to be fucking good and dead in the coming decades. And I don't mean to be mean. I'm just being honest. This is as catastrophic as the change from hand-drawn animation to digital animation and CGI animation's over dominance with hand-drawn animation in the Western nations. It's that level of, catastrophic change that's going to happen with AI art and the inevitable advancement of animation, because that's the greatest strength of AI art. Its ability to replicate multiple images simultaneously. If that can be harnessed in enough of a way, and the thing is, we're already a quarter of the way there in terms of AI art, because if you can focus on a certain prompt to focus it on a certain theme, it can stick to that theme in enough of a way that a lot of the time it can replicate a particular style. In fact, I should look up a video of this real quick for you. There's a video that's a good example of this. There we go. Harry Potter Ghibli. Bingo. This is the best one. Here, let me just show you this. This is a good example of what I'm talking about. And we see, although this isn't exactly animation, what we're seeing is a very similar style of art that imitates what a Hogwarts slash a Hogwarts style slash that a Harry Potter style in a Ghibli-esque kind of anime. And there's many examples of this sort of thing that go on. That's been happening of late. Like, here's another example.
Does your cleanser leave
These
your
bloody
skin
ads.
tight and dry? Ditch it for Hydro Boost Gel Cleanser.
There we go. Anyways, the point I'm trying to get at here is we're already a quarter of a way there, where if you can focus on a particular style and theme, you can have enough of a sort of thematic whole. So if we can push it farther into having moving frames with time, yeah, it's honestly inevitable. And like, it's not going to happen anytime soon. I know there's already been some early works in terms of a sort of AI anime. I forget the video of it. Maybe I'll look up the clip of it later if I remember. But the point is, AI art will inevitably take over the animation industry. Period. It's not a debate, it's just a fact that we're going to have to come to terms with. Because this is the sad historical reality. Animators have always been treated like shit. Ever since the beginning. They've always been the most underappreciated, they've always been the most underpaid, and oftentimes a lot of the animation is sent to the slave shops, I mean sweatshops, where they're paid less money in a third, in a lesser, smaller, or basically a third world country, kind of like China, if you will. So like, the animators are paid very little for the animation that they do. That's already a thing that's been going on for years, constantly. Even in the case of Japan, a lot of the animation has moved abroad to to countries that can pay cheaper labor. What's cheaper than having a machine do all the work for you, right? I mean, the animators can try and fight this, but like, animators are the most screwed because the studios don't give a fuck about the animators. The studios never really gave a fuck about the animators. You look at the long, depressing history of how animators have been treated over the years, and like, that it's inevitably gonna be replaced by AI. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And that's the only type of area where the artists are, have a right to be fearful of AI. In terms of animation, and not just hand-drawn animation, but even in CGI animation modeling, because the same sort of techniques could be used even in that field. As I already know, with some dabbling, you can have something equivalent to a CGI style of a CGI style of art as well from AI. So that's really where it's at. Like that's really where the majority of the issue is at, because really, other than in terms of AI art's inevitable dominance in terms of animation, the only other place it will have dominance is in the future of VR and stuff like that. Yeah. So I think it's funny that for the most part, artists are afraid of AI taking over their fields when, unless you're an animator, you're probably not going to be hindered by it nearly as much as you think. Animators are the ones that should be the scared. The rest of you, if you have an independent business, if you're able to find a way to make money off your art, you're actually going to be okay, for the most part. Like, you may have a little more difficulty, as I said, the business design end of arts, like making logos and things, will be more likely replaced by AI, but other types of art, any other type of art, like a fan art, whatever, it's fine. Like, I don't, we can even tell that's the case even now, that although it's difficult, although it's difficult to make any business in the arts, it's no different than it's always been. So, yeah, I just think it's funny that people's fear about one thing taking over art, AI art taking over painters or artists that can draw or whatever. It's like, nah, you're mostly gonna be okay. It's actually animators that are fucked, and honestly, there's pretty much nothing that can be done about it. Oh, you can fight it, but it won't matter. I mean, the technology is, like I said, is so it's already starting to get there. You know, it's only a matter of just how long will it take before you're able to do a sort of frame by frame movement animation where you can set up a prompt to go like have said character walk a certain way. Um, yeah, and really yeah, that's where it's going to be at in the future. Um, I don't think there's anything that's going to change that really. So yeah, or, although AI art will be a danger for the future, ironically it's the other it's another area to be concerned with, other than drawing or whatever. Anywho, that's all for me for today. Talk to you later. Goodbye.